What is this big thing on my face? Hey, everybody. It's Medium Brandon Ross behind a placard and a podium. And just hit them all, kid. There we go. Hey, everybody. It's Medium Brandon Ross. I hope you're doing well today, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Comedium Roast, where we bring on spiritual people, comedians, comedians, musicians, artists, authors, what have you. And we have a vibrant discussion about spirit, development, creativity, and all that other good stuff. And of course, with me as always is Daryl Honey Badger. We're going to bring her on here. Hey, Daryl, we'll get you right in the middle of I feel like I'm the waiter that brings you over when you're like, hey, I'm having a bite here. And I'll just bring you on camera while you're taking a sip so you can spin it all over the place.
How was that coffee?
Yeah, there we go. By the way, clearly we're in the middle of the coffee wars here. We're in the middle of the coffee wars. I'm a little Stewart's and she's a little Duncan. But yeah, so interesting story out of our guest today. We it's a regular, like, I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, and you're like, yeah, get my hair done. I'll see you later today. And you come walking in and you stood there with such pride. You were like, I'm like, what am I supposed to say? I'm like, what? Are you taller? Did you gain a croissant? Like, what's going on here? Right. And then what happened?
I had my hair dyed blue.
You dyed your hair blue. And I was like, oh, it took me a minute. But anyways, then I'm like, well, one thing led into another. And then we had this great conversation. Then all of a sudden we're having conversations with James and you're like, oh my gosh. Oh, and did you know he does tarot? And did you know that he does, mediumship circles? And did you know? And I'm like, no, like, you're just immersed in it, aren't you?
Pretty much. I'm like surrounded by it. I love it.
Well, there you go. Well, let's bring him on here. I want to tell you a little bit about James. He is a medium. He's a hairdresser first and foremost. But with that, and those of you that know me, I call the therapist, the teacher, the counselor, the nurse, and the hairdresser as the kind of the evolved messengers of spirit. Primarily because hairdressers sit in the third eye back here all the time, so you're picking up on stuff. So of course you've been developing all the way along here. James, welcome so much for being here today.
It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me on. I like how you said that, actually, about the...
Well, thank you. Because it's... this is the thing where, like, I think even when I said to you, yeah, you should come on the show, you're like, yeah, I don't mean, like you looked at Daryl and you were like, why should I be on the show? I'll be on the show, but why? Like, there was a little bit of confusion in the air. And I'm like, well, listen, if you can turn her hair blue, then I'm pretty sure you can do anything, and you can talk to dead people. But the part of it, though, for me is I'm always fascinated by hairdressers for this reason. Like, you guys are sitting there in like behind the third eye. So you're picking up all of that energy, like you're drawing in that energy. Talk to us a little bit about your development. Let's dive right in and we'll get to know you here.
I mean, I never planned on being a hairstylist to begin with.
I thought you were going to say I never planned on being a medium.
Well, all of it, like any of it. I always knew, like, from being young, I think all of us in childhood, especially if you're born before such things as like iPhones and like all this other stuff that takes you away from
Stone Age. We call it the Stone Age.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I was born in a world of like magic. Like you had to go outside, you had to play your games, and luckily, with that being said, I think just from that alone and just feeling a connection to nature, which a lot of people don't do anymore, that just transpired into early childhood development for me in regards to like just being empathic and understanding what that is. And then as I got older, I decided to go into school for biology and science, and I was going to be a forensics pathologist, actually. And then it was 2002. I had like basically what I would then have called a mental breakdown, but it was more of like a spiritual breakdown.
Got it. Wait, how old were you?
I was 21, I think.
Oh, yeah? Keep going.
When I decided to, and I know why based on my chart, but when I decided to change everything all of a sudden, like it was just like, bam, things just hit into a spiral where I was just like, I'm not going to go to school for 14 years.
It was a Uranus square.
Wow.
At 21, you hit your Uranus square.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's an activator for becoming.
Okay,
It's
so
a huge thing, but yeah, keep going. I love it.
So that happened, and my friend then was like, well, she wasn't my friend then, but this person then was like, hey, listen, you're doing things behind the scenes, because I was doing people's hair like for the fun of it.
Yeah.
I was becoming like a consultant for people when it came to style and just aesthetic. And she was like, you should just go to hair school. And I was like, honestly, I don't want to be another gay hairstylist. Like, I just don't want to fit that like stereotype.
I didn't know that was a category.
Yeah, there was a category back then. Like,
James, you and I have so much in common. Keep going. Keep
It
going.
was a category. I was like, I don't want to be that, So then I was like, okay, I'll go try it out.
Yeah.
And I discovered I have a very innate gift with and speaking of like, no pun intended, the medium of using hair as one of my gifts and what I do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Big time.
that's what I started that.
And I think that's, I mean, serious kudos to anybody that does that's developing or has developed. When you look back and you start to take stock in what you did and how you kind of became, it's a really big deal when the try it out factor, I'm going to try this. Like, I don't like the term dabble, but you do that because what you do is you're trying to reconcile and just feel your way a little bit, because there's no handbook in this. Like, there's zero handbook in this. Even I've been trying to create a handbook for the 30 years I've been cognizant of it, and it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist, because the thing of it all is your perspective, right? There's a difference between perception and perspective, and you need to, perception is, oh, I think that's going to be there. Perspective is, well, I've seen this before, and you have to get different perspective. It changes your perception. But for a developing person, a developing spiritual being, you need to try it, and you need to fail. How many times did you fail at this? Like, how many times were you like, oh, that didn't work?
I just love a good challenge. I can't say I've had many failures, to be honest.
And it's funny because you don't look at them. Well, is it because you don't look at them as failures, or you were like, oh, that was my time and place and now I can move on?
I think just based on when you're looking at nature versus nurture too, I came from a very, like, if we went to dive into my childhood or dive into what I came into this world as, what I chose this to be, I chose to be strong from the get-go. I've been a strength and a force from birth. And I feel that in my being, and just saying it, I feel like I call them my angels around me. They're like clapping. They're like, yeah, you do it, and you keep doing it. Cause I consider myself like even part angel. Like I've come here to do so much more than just be behind the chair. And I know that, like, behind the chair doing hair, and I know that, and creating that. And I've reached another pinnacle part to what that purpose is. And I honestly think it's cool that that happens on this day, being on this podcast, because that has a lot to do with my astrology as well. When you look at it.
Oh, absolutely. But how did you determine that?
I look at my 10th house. I look at my midheaven, my MC. I look at where Neptune is from birth. I look at where the planets are currently. I look at Mars and Neptune joining forces again. I look at Aries being such a pinnacle part to my driven purpose, really for everybody. I look at all of that and how it's been impacting. It's really cool to see the cycles. I love how astrology shows these major pinnacle cycles. So like this cycle feels like what it felt like for me in 2002, 2003, 2004, like all that, those years before I even went into cosmetology. So it's like this next evolution, which I'm now finding more clarity in.
Yeah, and it's funny you should say that with the cyclical pattern of it. Again, I always say astrology is cycles. Once you understand those cycles, it's no surprise that at 21 you hit, because you have a natural Uranus square there. But the other part of this too is I see a lot of people, there are so much karmic value, dare we say, or something along the lines of being able to say like, hey, the similarities between back then and now, you were post 9/11, we were trying to figure out our way, everything we had built up at that point had fallen apart in some way, not a complete disaster, but we had all kind of had that tower moment, that societal tower moment. And by the way, we just had a societal tower moment with COVID. Right. So realistically, where you were in 2002, 2003, that's great advice right now. How do you must give a lot of people advice, like just by sitting in the chair, maybe it's not a full reading, right?
Yeah.
Right. How do you incorporate like what's going on astrologically? Because I find myself saying that stuff all the time. You're having a hard time today. Mars and Uranus are together. Like, I always say shit like that.
Yeah, they're like, what the F are you talking about?
Yes, don't drop the soap near them. All right. So, but
I think
how do you incorporate it with people?
Well, first and foremost, I think your vibe attracts your tribe, and then how you are able to discuss those things. Like, I would say back when I first was behind the chair to talk to people, was more like learning my gifts and that energy as well, just being with people, because I had to learn also how to protect my energy, because I'm such a sponge, right? And so like I take on even like their own dark entities and even on their own like inner demons, so to speak. So I had to learn like just to focus on the being behind the chair first. So I think it was more ego driven then, like in that 2000, like in my first 4 or 5 years. And then I call it like my second coming out, which is like, all of a sudden I started, you know what, this is it. This is who I am now. And I opened up another salon and I started incorporating more of my spiritual practitioner energy and talking about it. So I think it's just like, you got to feel it out. And then those are the people you want to be behind, integrated into. But honestly, I'll come up with just maybe a conversation, but most of the time I'll bring it up. I'll just be like, oh, well, did you know it's a full moon today?
Yeah, it's funny. And sometimes people are like, ooh, I heard this. I find that, well, let me ask a question this way. Do you ever have skeptics sitting in your seat and you start talking about it and they're like, oh, that's just voodoo and whatever. And you're like, oh shit, I just got to get through this head.
No.
I'm sorry. How I said, did that come out wrong?
It did kind of come out wrong.
I don't care what you did in college.
I said, which one? He said, I just got to get through this head. And I said, which one? Sorry.
Jesus, Carol, way to put 13 on the end of the PG.
I'm going to.
Yeah, I mean, we just went right through it. We just went right to that other end. Boundaries?
I thought for sure one of the planets were going to give us a left-hand turn. But what do you do with skeptics? What do you do with people that don't necessarily, and although you're clientele and you're attracting that vibration, which I love, and that's how you're doing purposeful things, but you have to come across somebody, every once in a while where they're just kind of closed off.
Well, I mean, it's the same question back to you. Like, what do you do when you have a skeptic and you're doing a reading for them and they know damn well that they're coming to you to just challenge your ability, like challenge that gift, even though they're also intuitive and they know that this stuff is like energy is energy, nature is nature. Like it doesn't take a very intelligent person to understand that we're all energy. So that being said, I bring it on. I love a good challenge, but I also will let the person know to hold themselves accountable. So like they bring that on. I always say that I'm reading, like, we're here to hold ourselves accountable too. So I'm going to hold myself accountable. You hold yourself accountable. Or like, I mean, Daryl can tell you, I have a certain face.
Yeah.
I know how to change the energy of a room, of a 6x6 space, of a person-to-person space. So if I get a skeptic, I can definitely say that if I change my language, it's just because I just don't feel like talking to them anymore about it because it's not worth it. Or I will change the language to maybe something they more understand. Like instead of talking about like spirit or energy or like, because even for me, it took me, I don't know what for you guys, it took me a while to understand like spirit guides. Like I don't have spirit guides. Like I have something else. And I continue to work with
That's interesting to me. I mean, listen, I'm thoroughly enjoying Daryl. Jump in any century. I don't even know how you do this because you're sitting here on a podcast with two people that are like spring loaded unpack. Like it's just like blah! It's like the snakes are everywhere. You said so much with that. First of all, when you say I'm gonna, I'll ask you like, how do you approach that? And I was doing one of these, like, I love that stuff. Not because I want to smack them down. That's not it. I mean, there are some people that are just being jerks about it.
Yeah.
I tend to embarrass them. But if people are just kind of like, I don't know, what is my grandmother's name? It's like I always try and gauge like what their level. I find the bell curve here. You have the assholes, right? And then you generally have people that don't know the difference, but they're curious, but they just don't know if they're in the right place. And then you have the people that are genuinely like, I'm really struggling with this. I need you to kind of help me make heads and tails of it. Maybe it's because of a gift, or maybe it's because of a traumatic thing or whatever. But I generally try and gauge that, and then I unpack, then I unload, then I kind of go like, oh, okay, here you go. Maybe it is as simple as saying, oh, it's a full moon right now. Or maybe they're kind of in that curiosity lane of saying, well, there's a, Venus trine Mars going on right now. I'd have to take a look at your chart. It depends upon kind of where that's going. And then from the mediumship standpoint, I find that when people are closed off and I'm still getting a message, I know full well they're full of crap. I let spirit tell me what's going on with them. That's generally how I work. And if spirit's just like, don't bother with this one. Don't bother with this one. Like, that's when I go, whoop, okay. I pay attention to it. I no longer am in the business to convince anybody anything.
Well, like, were you like that in the beginning of all this? Because like, I feel like in the beginning of my mediumship aspects and readings and stuff, I would almost be like embarrassed to not give, because they didn't come in with an open mind. They didn't come in with an open energy. They didn't come with an open, like, they came with that skeptic energy, that closed mind, that closed energy. And that's not fair.
That's the trap. James,
yeah,
that's the trap. Right. And a lot of young, developing spiritual medium intuitives fall into that trap. I certainly did, where you're like, oh my God, I have to prove this. Right. And then you realize that it has nothing to do with you. Right. Yeah. Come back to me when you're ready to learn. That's, that's where it needs to be. I have a story in the book that it's worth, talking about now. And it was, this kid came to me, and he was in his mid-20s. And he sat there and he gave me, when he signed up, he gave me the wrong name. He was kind of aloof. He didn't really make a lot of eye contact when he sat down. And I go, okay, here we go. Either this kid he's in the bell curve. I knew he was in the bell curve. And again, there's nothing wrong with being, as an empath, you're sitting with the person. And the feeling that I'm getting is you're at either side of this. Can you say it was body language? Sure. Can you say it was a cold reading? Not really. I didn't really get any information, but I had my philosophy down. And through the course of talking to him, I discovered that he lied about his name. I discovered that he was a student. He was actually getting his PhD in psychology. He was trying to debunk mediumship for bereavement. He was attempting to. He was gonna basically say, I met a medium in upstate New York, but of course I turned it around and I ended up speaking at Yale at his in one of his lecture classes to talk about how mediumship and bereavement really go hand in hand.
Yes, that's awesome.
So that ended up being the conversation for me, where he came in with his arms folded, but I have to tell you, that was at a time where I'm like, I was still like trying to drag things out of people and whatever. If that person comes in now, I don't give a shit if you're going to an Ivy League school. I don't have time for this. I have other people to help. Does that make sense? Like at one time that served me very well. Do you see that kind of evolution for yourself too? Like where you're just like, okay, I just need to do your hair and get you going.
Oh God, yeah, for sure. But I also see that I don't have any of those clients. Like I honestly don't. Like, any client that now comes to me already has an nature or connection to the aspects of the universe or God, whatever you want to call it. They bring it up now to me. I would say because also the more confident you become in this like mediumship or whatever you want to call it, it just that exudes itself too. So again, it's like your frequency, right? Your vibration. It's like it's somewhat impenetrable for me. There's still a few times I get tripped up with other people's, I mean, we all do. It's part of it, right? It's part of the experience. But it's I can be very honest. I don't have any like that anymore. Like if I do, I probably say bye, like in a nice way.
Right.
I was going to say, you've probably weeded those people out over the years, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
I mean, how do you get rid of them? Just give them a bad haircut? Like, I don't.
No, I would never.
Give them a
God, you saw my chart.
Quality. I have standards, Brandon.
All quality. You saw my chart.
He almost turned off his screen. He was that upset. He's just like, did you
Daryl
just...
knows I could be in the worst mindset or whatever, or just not in the right mindset, but like I still will give, I could do it. Like I will give quality no matter what.
You
I
can
will
be
either be super quiet or
Mhm.
and give quality, or like, and that's the thing. It's like read the room. Like thankfully, Daryl is one of those people,
Oh my gosh.
one of my clients that is like that. But then I do have certain clients that are like, they're all of a sudden like I can just feel like the depression set in, and I'm just like, oh God, it's gonna be this. This is gonna happen. And then if that's a consistency, then I'm like, I'm not the person for you. And I've had to do that a few times actually in the past couple months.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, so now you're really kind of getting to how much of an energy snob you are.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean that in a good way. I mean that in a good way, because I genuinely think that, yeah, you're going to attract. I love that as a topic, but I also think, I mean, my affinity for hairdressers have been, in the, once upon a time, the bartender became the confessional and that sort of thing. And think about how that dropped your energy. You were dehydrating, you were drinking alcohol, you were lowering your vibration. Well, hairdressers, it's kind of like, it's light and fluffy in a way, and I mean that out of respect. Like, you're kind of like, hey, this is a good thing. You're doing something of self-care. You're not drowning your woes. You're doing self-care. So your premise and your stage is already set to heal. Then all of a sudden you're gifted standing behind them saying, were you close to your grandmother? And then all of a sudden everything opens up. If you can go back to this, and sometimes when you've been doing it for a while, you forget the details, but could you talk about a time like if you remember the first time where you were just like, I got to deliver a message here, or maybe a time where you're finally like, yes, I need to do this on a regular?
Well, now it happens so often.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when I'm doing a class or something for people, like, or even obviously during readings, I've been getting more physical mediumship, which is something new for me. But clear sentience has come through, like the smell.
Yeah, sure.
And that's when I really realized, like, that happened with a client. She was sitting in the chair. It was literally like maybe at 10 a.m., 10:30.
Yeah.
And I say that for the story, so just so everyone knows. And I just remember, like, she was sitting down, and I just looked at her, and I go, this is so weird. I go, I have to tell you, I smell margaritas. Like, I'm smelling margaritas, like, very strongly. I go,
wait, in a salon? Never heard of it.
No, in my salon, you wouldn't. And I go, I smell that margaritas. Like, I could taste the salt, and I'm like, this is 10:30 in the morning.
Right.
This woman,
it's Cinco de James.
I'm wanting to be like, are you an alcoholic? No, I'm not kidding.
No, but
a late night the night before.
But I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, like.
But hold on a second. Sometimes you get sensitive stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get sensitive things like, oh my gosh, this person's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of tiptoe around it and be like, tell me about your grandmother. Yeah. She's giving me alcohol right now. Oh my gosh, yeah, she was a lot. Oh, okay, all right. They can say it, but you can't. And to a skeptic from the outside looking in, they're like, well, they didn't know that. They were like, well, everybody drinks alcohol. They could dismiss it. But I don't think people really appreciate when a medium is sensitive to information like that we're actually respecting the spirit, we're respecting their journey, because you're stepping on a trigger. You're literally, sometimes spirit will communicate in a trigger, and you're like, I'm getting alcohol here. What's going on with grandma? Oh, she was an alcoholic. Okay, we can proceed.
It was weird that I was getting that, but at the same time, I now understand why, because, well, it made more sense. So like I was talking to her, and I started talking to her about it, and I was just saying it to her. She started to cry. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Da, da, da. And she goes, my mom's name was Margaret. And the reason you're getting margarita,
bubble.
Whole like thing, and kind of like just dispersed into a whole thing.
Yeah.
I personally love margaritas, not the kind that have all the sweetness in them, but once in a while I do like.
I like a little stank on it. I see you. All right.
Not as much anymore. No, honestly, because it hurts my
really
vibration now.
You're a new dad, which we'll get to here in a minute. But as soon as you have to do a 4 a.m. bottle run, like there goes the margarita mix. And if you stir it up and put the margarita mix in it, then there's a please and whatever.
Well, when you're running a higher vibration, you get more affected by certain things like alcohol, drug, anything that's going to lower it. Like even coffee. Like for me, I've had to go to decaf, or half caffeine decaf.
That's
like I know, but anything like that like can really now trigger, like affect my vibration.
sure.
And it's because
The Comedium,
I guess I'm not like able to work with that.
Yeah,
you know?
we here at the Comedium Roast find that a weakness, quite frankly.
Whatever. Well, maybe you guys can help me strengthen that back up.
I'm only kidding. No, but you can't binge. I mean, I think that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, if you're out with friends and you have a drink and, you know, like, you know, the half a dozen beers that I have a year and the 3 mixed drinks that I have, you know, in some form of celebration or another, I'm not working and I'm spaced out and I'm not working the next day.
Daryl, is that true? Is
yeah.
that true?
Oh yeah, I am a teetotaler.
In the 4 years that I've known Brandon, I swear I've seen him have 5 drinks.
Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did I even finish them?
Probably half of them. No.
No. I mean, and it's not a matter of, you know, I'm also a recovery coach, but it's not because I've ever had that challenge. It's because I wanted that skill set in my, you know, my tool belt as well. And I think when I love this topic because I have to tell you, James, this has been one of those things that I'm seeing everywhere now, is people that have a shred of ability are addressing their self-medication routine, whether it be through binge eating, whether it be through alcohol, whether it be through drugs, whether it be whatever the binge is. It's a much more level lifestyle now, and you don't feel as off kilter. Like you can't make up for it quite as much. You know, it's kind of like when you're 22 years old and you stayed out till the sun came up and you woke up mid-afternoon and you did it all over again. Like the idea of doing that in your 40s is like insanity, right? It's a spiritual awakening that has given us this kind of advance of feeling like we're in our 40s and 50s, and for most of us we are. But for me, I had that at a much younger age. Like I've never really been that person there. So yeah, so that's kind of cool. So how do you mix your hair business along with the spiritual stuff? I know that you teach classes. So talk a little bit about how you kind of merge all this together. And I want to get to the Synergy Center stuff here too.
Okay. So I opened up my second salon in 2016. It was a great transition for me to go into more of my metaphysical studies and metaphysical practices. So before I started calling everything spiritual, I went for metaphysical, which I still love. I love the word. I love the vibration to the word. Every word has a frequency and vibration. I just love metaphysical. It just sounds so cool. And I opened, I think Daryl remembers, I have this nice room in my new salon. And at the same time we were working on having my son, which if you want to get into later, we had, and I was selling the one salon after about a couple of years so I could work on that. And then I started changing that room to what was called the reading room. So it was like my special room because I'd like to have a lot of tools in my tool belt. So I was taking Reiki classes. I was taking this class. I did a mediumship with Kelly Ballard for 2 years. I did like, you know, master mediumship course with her. I, you know, was really going more and more into it. And it was my late 20s where I started getting back into like pulling cards every day and, you know, getting into my journal every day. So the reading room was there, and it was my first way of like showing people like, what's that? You know, like clients of the other styles that were there, like, what is that? So then it evolved. It kept evolving. So, and I love the evolution of evolve is another word for me. And it kept evolving. So it started to evolve into LHB Soul Center, which I established during 2021, during the pandemic. I established it. Yeah, March, actually on the equinox. So on purpose, 3/21/2021. And it wasn't quite like, it was still being received. But again, I was like the operator of it and still am the sole operator of it. And so I then started to switch it into now a lounge room. So it's a lounge room and the place where I do my readings. So it's a room where I have a ton of metaphysical books, which you've been in. You came in that one day. And a bunch of metaphysical books and like for my own personal library. and set it up in a way like it's kind of like a room of curiosity, you know, for those people who want to just go in there and relax, that's fine. Or do you see a cool numerology book over there? Maybe you should check out your favorite number. And or do you see that all the astrology you'll ever need to know? Or there's the Alchemist book, right? Or
I have that on my front seat.
there's so many cool books.
I
right?
have that on my front seat this morning. It's so crazy. So my aunt is in Belgium right now, and she went to the Alchemist museum, and the Alchemist museum is truly like alchemy. Like it's let's put it this way: the solar system only goes to Saturn, right? Like that's the level of alchemy that it is. And for whatever reason, I picked up the book. I had it with me. I grabbed it for whatever reason. I see her post that she's in Belgium and she's there, and I'm like, holy Toledo! Now you're bringing it up.
And I was crying. I cried reading that book.
That book kicked me in the nuts. I mean, it really did, because it was about not giving up, and it was about repositioning yourself and accepting where you were every step of the way, and that it had purpose all the way through. Yeah. And I draw on that book all the time. Do you ever like bring in, like, how did the Alchemist help your philosophy? I love this topic.
It was introduced to me when I went to my first, and I'm getting like those chills, I call them, down my spine. It's really cool that you brought that up too. So it was introduced to me when I started doing my first Reiki 1 class with Janet and James not Predoletto, but Janet and James Orzano, I think. And they were teaching Reiki, and Eric, my spouse, actually went with me, and we got attuned together. And Alchemist, I don't know if Daryl knew that.
No.
So, and he's always been an awesome support. And so he, as much challenging as he is, like love and marriage, let's be real. So he like challenged me. So anyways, so Reiki, this woman, part of the circle, she's like, I have a book for you. And that's how that came into my life.
Wow.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Really cool. I like the synchronicity, another word I love, came into that. And it was
awesome. You know, it was funny. My introduction to it, like I'd gotten the book as like a standard issue. Like people, you know, when you run a center, people just drop stuff off to you. And I probably saw the book 8-9 years ago now. And it wasn't until, it's funny, I was doing a podcast with this woman named Kelsey, and I knew it was a stopgap for her. And Kelsey's like, I'm really supposed to be something bigger in the world. And I said, what's your tattoo? And she has a quote from the Alchemist on her arm.
Oh, no way.
And she was like, Kelsey is somebody that I should really revisit and have her in this space as well, because she has decided to become a nurse practitioner, and she's at a very prestigious college. She's the 1% in the country. What fascinated me about her was that she was very well read, very well traveled. She was in the Peace Corp for years, and she just had it together. Like, she's on this mission that like you can't find down at a guidance counselor's office. And I said, what's your primer? What's your compass? And she held up the book and she goes, it's this. She's like, I'm going to keep getting thrown into positions like that. And that's a total shout out to Kelsey. And she's an amazing, every year she goes on I think it's 100-mile walk.
Oh, wow.
And what she does is she uses as a fundraiser to help her village back in Africa.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, to me, like I like to be around people that take the reins like that and say, hey, I want to change things. Hey, I want to do it differently. Hey, I want to help the cause, whatever that cause is. And this is my idea on how to do it. And I think that's fascinating. And I think you're doing that, James, based on that room. This is what I'm reading on this, is like that room is, you're like, I know there's going to be lost people, and I'm going to show them this room. They might find one thing that'll help them give direction. That's a really powerful thing in this world now.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's not just about hairstyle. Oh, and by the way, you make them look fabulous and kick them out the door. Right? You're just kind of like, well, she's a little windblown, but we'll just push her out anyways. Windblown is a hairstyle, which I think we're going to talk about some hairstyles here in a minute.
Oh my God, are we?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
5 out of 10. Don't you worry.
Daryl gave me a little bit of a heads up, but she doesn't give me too much of a heads up because I think she doesn't trust me to like not Google the shit out of things, which I never do. But it's always kind of fun. But I think it's, but I think like in your path with this, I think you're really kind of like laying the groundwork of a template that works for you and other people can take it. You know, all these years, I always thought I was in competition. I'm not in competition. I'm showing other people how to do it their own way.
Exactly.
Right.
And
You take great
everything that
ego
you
out of
just
it.
said is you showing it that way. You know what I'm saying?
Take that
So,
ego out of it.
so real quick though, your spouse is Eric,
Yeah.
and congratulations on the baby.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, he'll be
Listen,
2.
we gotta go down this road.
I have a question for you.
Is it personal?
Not really. Like for
The
both of you,
Pisces.
actually.
What's
This is for both of you as
Oh.
mediums, okay?
Yeah.
So he was born on June 10th, 2022.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I always find that birth date to be like doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't roll with like like obviously we have a great relationship. He's gonna be 2, whatever. But there's something about his birth date from day one where like even when I go to say it, there's no flow to it. It's something about that energy.
Well, do you think that
he came
First-
early, didn't he?
What?
Did he come early?
Yeah, I came early, but still, like, I mean, due dates are just like arbitrary to begin with, as
Right.
you know, So
Right.
like, I still to this day, like, whenever someone's like, "Oh, when's his birthday?" It's almost like it's a weird. I almost forget it for a second.
You have to think about it.
I have to think about it.
So
It's like,
June-
oh my god, am I a bad dad? Or but also, like, I think.
I mean, we are mandated reporters, so you're kind of screwed. Keep talking.
But there are
So,
some
My child.
2022.
6/10/2022, which he's a master number. So I just
So do you know time?
12:24 p.m. but in Nova Scotia. No, he was born in Nova Scotia, Canada. So, yeah.
Well, it's interesting he's a master number.
Yeah, well, when you add his birth date, it
Yeah.
comes to 11. I
Mhm.
believe 3811.
So if he's 22, he's 6, 7, he's 13, he's 4. June 10th, right?
2020, yeah, it's 6/10/2022, 12:24 p.m. in Truro, Canada. Am I allowed to say that on here? Like, is that people gonna like?
Sure.
Like, oh my god! Like,
Did you
edit
spot
that
him
out?
across the border? I mean, is he illegally?
No, I mean, like, I don't want people to be like, I'm gonna steal his identity. Is that
Oh,
what
gotcha.
No, it's kind of not really. I mean,
well, for whatever reason, like and I think it's something spiritual, honestly, because it's something that like I know for a lot of reasons. I know that I was supposed to have.
I get what's going on
matters.
here.
I was supposed to have a girl first. I know we're gonna have another kid, but I know for whatever, because why didn't that happen? But at the same time, spirit has a way. Obviously, the universe has a way of being like, ha ha ha, you thought wrong or whatever. Even as a medium, you can pick up things really weird.
Oh yeah.
well,
No,
I have found that a lot of times, and I'm gonna choose a random thing here, and I'll talk about it, and if I pull it up, I'll blank some stuff out of here. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now, one of his challenges in this life, first of all, he's a 10th houser. So as a Gemini in the 10th house, dude's gonna have, I mean, you think you multitask, you need to show this kid how to multitask in a big way, right? And moreover, it was a natural. Wow.
I have a lot of Gemini traits, so like I've always been more I always felt more Gemini than Cancer because of like a lot of things in my chart.
Yeah.
Well, it would kind of make sense in that regard, but just kind of like taking a look at him, and again, I've got a comparison up for the current time, which it hasn't really changed that much. But I think one of the things, it's interesting though. This is interesting. He has Chiron and Mars in conjunct in his 8th house, with Jupiter also in the 8th house. You might want to have the talk earlier than later.
About what? The mediumship?
No, I'm not talking about mediumship. Yes, Susan, Paulo Coelho. No, I mean the talk. It's in his 8th house, astrologer. You know what the 8th house is. And he's got activators in his 8th house. Put pants on him, maybe a belt.
Okay.
Just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying he's got a destiny to be a little worked up and worked out in that area. You see what I'm saying?
I know.
Okay, all right, there we go. I know we're talking about a child.
He's a magnet. he's a magnet already.
He's
For
Yeah.
everything.
Oh,
That's
yeah. It's kind of like,
horrible.
oh, he's got cute eyes, and then you're like, lady, why are you taking your clothes off? He's like he's got that kind of prowess. I'm just saying. But
But also that has a lot to do with that spiritual realm too. I mean, that's the house of Scorpio. Like, there's a lot there, right?
well, yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about. And since he's an Aries, um,
Gemini.
No, he's a Gemini.
or, no, he is a Gemini, but his Mars and Chiron are in Aries. His Jupiter is in Aries. So this kid's going to have a lot of get up and go and get up and went. And he might be a little bit of a schemer because in the 8th house is also other people's money and that sort of thing. So he might be a really good like investment advisor. He might be somebody that might be like, hey, I'll be a really good consultant. I'll tell you how to turn this $20 into $100 if you share me with 20. You know, and then they're like, what? I can get 60% return? I love that. Like he's going to have that kind of prowess to him.
I just have an aha moment.
Yeah, keep going.
Because his that placement's also in, so would represent in my 10th house. And that's where all of my like dreams come true, is like in my 10th house. That's pretty interesting.
Loving this shit, aren't we?
Very
You know what, James Joseph? We're about to take a look.
We have
And-
your chart.
And I am listen, I don't want to show his chart, so I'm just going to talk.
No, yeah,
You have
yeah,
your
don't-
chart ready to go.
No, I know.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say this to you.
That's interesting. Huh. I've looked
Yeah.
at his chart, but now I'm like looking at it in a whole different way since you brought that up.
He's also got, well, when you guys do your alignment, and by the way, I'm going to flip this around. You are in his 10th house, which is, yeah, I mean, that is 100% true. Now, on the other side of it, when you flip it around, you guys are in each other's 12th house.
Yes.
Like when you are the center
sounds
square,
like
it's the 12th house. So this is a dream. You know, this is
Mhm.
like a spiritual, you've got a spiritual journey with this kid.
Well, his sun is conjunct my Mercury in Gemini. So like,
Oh my God, you guys are never going to shut up.
yeah. Well, we already have like an unsaid, like, it's very telepathic. It's
This
extremely
is so great. So as an adoptive foster parent myself, I have a very clear like connection with Xander. His name is Alexander. He was originally Alejandro. And but Xander and I have this whole past life thing together. Like I've dreamt of it before I met him. I knew his name before I met him. And it was funny. I remember saying, yeah, his name is going to be like Z, like a Zachary, Xander, Zoller. It's a Z. I can kind of see it. I can feel it. And then when they're like, no, it's Alejandro. And then I'm like, it's Alexander. And they're like, yeah, it's Alexander. And I go, we'll call him Xander. Like I knew it. Like I knew exactly how to pick it apart and everything else. And for him and I've had very vivid dreams. I've had very vivid connections. He and I have gone through stuff and just looked at each other. He's like, I don't know. Here we go again. And it's weird. I mean, I talk to dead people and I'm telling you, it's weird.
I know. I get it.
It's so enlightening, though. It's so empowering because I'm like, aha, I did the right thing here. How did you, and I don't necessarily need to know the whole backstory of like the adoption part of it, but how did you know when you're in the process of adoption, there's a lot of choices that you have to make? How did you guys make your choices that brought you to him and then he ends up in your chart like this? What were some of the things that you go back to and you're like, I don't know what this is, but it was spirit? Was it a phone call? Was it a gut feeling? How did you go?
Well, to correct you, it was actually surrogacy.
Yeah.
So
It was what? It was surrogate?
Yeah.
So we
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, so we had to find an egg donor first who
Wow.
donated a ton of eggs, and then we fertilized them. Eric and I both like split them. So then I have a certain set of embryos, Eric has a certain set of embryos. And it took 4 years to do it. And we did it via through Canada on purpose for all intensive reasons. And so he's a dual citizen. So he's born in Canada. We were there for the birth. We were actually in Canada for 6 weeks.
Wow.
So it started from like 2018, 2019 to where he was born in 2022. So yeah, we did have to pick.
I love this.
Yeah, we had to pick the egg donor, which was a very interesting process alone. And then because she's more anonymous, and then the surrogate, who we still love to this day, who we're still friends with, she did a wonderful job, and we're hoping to do via surrogacy again, but with Eric's embryo. So he's actually half my biology and half the Caribbean Canadian's biology. He's
Wow,
Dominican, Jamaican, Cuban.
I gave birth to the United Nations, Brandon. That's what
Yeah,
I did.
yeah. He's also
United
Jewish.
Nations here.
He's also Jewish and the son of two same-sex parents. So he's going to be
Got it going on.
Yeah, holy Toledo. What are you, a Shania Twain concert?
Yeah.
So but here's the part where I can kind of go back to and ask you about this. Intuitively, even though she's anonymous, you had to intuitively say, like, okay, this is the right way to go. Was it a feeling? Was it a hit? Was it? I'm fascinated by this, and I love that you guys have this journey. I absolutely love it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Not to get emotional, I didn't choose her. Eric did, because I knew it was gonna be my embryo. I knew it was gonna be my embryo first, and he's actually the second embryo transfer. So the first one didn't take like a miscarriage, which was very, we had to experience that for that reason, but for whatever reason that was, and so because I knew it was gonna be my embryo, I wanted Eric to choose who, like, the female.
I love that. Wow, it sounds like he chose partners.
Yeah, he chose based on his Eric's more. He's Aquarius, but more like a Capricorn, which is daunting. And he love him, but like it's a lot. And he chose based on music. So
I'm not saying he was a little more Capricorn. He just asked for a lot of labs.
He's very Capricorn. He's like 3 degrees Aquarius. He's way more Capricorn than Aquarius. He's so much like in Capricorn. It's crazy. It's a lot.
He's on the 21st or 22nd.
He's the 23rd.
23rd. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Depending upon which year it would have been a late degree on the 21st. But it's interesting though, because I think too, where you have biology, involved with this, there's a clear connection.
Yeah.
How much were you able to influence the timing of the surrogacy and the birth and all?
I mean, we got to the year, we really wanted to make sure, I don't know, like from the first embryo transfer, which was in August of 2021, we were able to do it again for September of 2021. So I wasn't planning on him being another June baby,
right.
I knew that. I think like the more intuitive hits came from what I got in the dream world of like knowing that he had a lapis lazuli aura. So I started calling him Blue. So his soul name is Blue. So Blue is part of his name. So I call him Blue. We call him Blue.
I fucking love this.
And so Blue, like, and I was visited in my dream by it was very like, she was all gray.
Yeah.
Gray face, all gray. And she said to me, and she had like tears like streaming down from her face. And she was like, kind of like, I say gypsy looking, tears streaming down her face. And she said it like more in an aggressive way. Like, I didn't want you to find out this way, but I need you to know you're having a boy. Again, it doesn't matter, whatever. Like if he chooses, he wants to.
You're happy either way.
Yeah. Like
you want to have 3 kids, one of each.
Yeah,
I know.
she prepped me. And I said to Eric right away, I was like, we're going to have a boy. So then that just changed the trajectory too for us. But yeah, we couldn't really control it as much as like, we were very grateful for whatever we could get too. We were very on the receiving end, which we continue to be so, because we have, of course, in this process, we have to be.
Yeah. And I'm really staying away from the geopolitical thing too, that you had to go to Canada for those. We have got to come around on this in a big, big way. And I'm going to do 10 seconds of a promotion here. I'm going to be in Texas next week because this whole book banning thing is out of control. Beto O'Rourke is connected to this book group that I'm going to support while I'm down there. And it's like, we just have to, we were so close a couple of years ago, and everything started to unravel from dipshittery. And without being political about it, it's like, how do we get this evolution like to a point where in a way your journey with your son is kind of like you standing up and giving the middle finger to the norm,
for sure,
to that conversation. And I think that is so important. And I think all all light workers worth their salt have something like that. I mean, not necessarily as monumentous as you know, a child per se, but we all tend to have something where it's like, that was my line in the sand. That was the part, you know, that was the part where I held up my goldfish and I said, who's coming with me? There is that moment of like, you find your truth, your authenticity, and you say, this doesn't concern you. This doesn't concern you, Mr. Legislature. This doesn't concern you, orders. This doesn't concern you. And I think it's a hallmark of greatness and great readers, quite frankly, that if you have the courage to take on big things like this, then you have the courage to, you know, speak the truth in a reading. You know, I think it's legitimate. I think it's a legit, you know, part of the conversation. More importantly, have you slept in 11 months? Like, like, and does it affect the hairstyling?
Well, actually, it's 2 years, almost 2 years.
In 2 years. No, I have.
I can't.
Well, you both know too, like from what you guys were saying earlier, like you both know, like the higher we are raising this vibration, of course, the more dipshittery is going to try to like
dipshittery.
Like we're trying to keep it down. Like, and I don't know about you, but like that's not going to be that's not possible. Like, sorry, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So whenever I see more of that crazy, like negative, like dark seated, like BS that just starts hammering down, you still get to remember that like you still have a choice, and like no matter what government wants to proceed over us or what this power is doing, what that power is doing, I've defeated many odds, just as both of you have probably done too, in a lot of ways. I mean, we won't get into women's rights right now. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
Like there's so much that like makes no sense. So like
it's all encompassing. It really is. I mean, James, it's really all encompassing. And you said something earlier that was a hallmark. And by the way, this is how mediums find each other, and we have respect for each other almost immediately. Rewind the tape. James said something really, really important in his opening spiel. He's all nerves and he's like, I don't know what this is. And then he's like, does Daryl's hair look good because it's up against it?
I was gonna say, Daryl, your hair looks really good today.
Yeah, it and styled it.
I love it. It looks awesome.
She went through the car wash. Anyway,
licking a prayer. I was like, I gotta look good.
The prayer hands. The prayer hands.
You know, we do the pregame call, and I'm like, "Are your windows open?" She goes, "My hair." No, but this is how mediums find. We hear certain things from different people, and you said something really. Again, you were kind of doing your data dump, like, "Oh my gosh, I got to find my comfort zone. I'm just going to talk about this. He's put me on the spot."
Okay, call me out. Okay, cool.
And no, I'm calling you out in a good way. And you said this is about a time of personal accountability. The age of Aquarius is about owning your shit, owning your mistakes, owning your whatever. And like nothing's fatal. There are no mistakes. I say this to my kids all the time. Nothing's fatal. You're failing every class, but it's not fatal because you have two options. You can work your tail off, stay out of summer school, or 2, go to summer school, or 3, just repeat the grade. Notice how you didn't die. I mean, your mother might kill you, but whatever. But on the other side of that, it's more about being able to say like, okay, you know what? I screwed up. I'm going to throw myself at the mercy of the conversation and be like, I need to do it differently. Whether it's a change behavior, whether it's a change style. Look at how many people have gone from being homophobic in the 80s because of fear tactics. And then as soon as you got educated, you're like, I'm going to make my own opinion. And by the way, most people don't give a shit. No. Congratulations. Fair enough. And that's not an insult to the cause. That's to say it's an accepted practice because it's just who you are. Right. Imagine if we actually judged people on the content of their character instead of the color of their skin or their plumbing preference. Right. That's an amazing, like that's the sign. That's one of the signs of Aquarius. And you see this skullduggery going on in court systems right now. And it is directly related to somebody saying, I screwed up. I'm sorry.
Right.
You know, and again, without saying his name, because the algorithm can go suck it.
Yeah.
If he at any point in the last 47 years, he had said, I did that wrong. I'm going to do it better next time. I'm sorry. I've learned a lesson here and I can't do it that way. Instead, it just became more emboldened because people just said, oh, okay. Oh, all right. Well, it's him. Now you're in a position where the entire country has suffered because he wasn't parented correctly. And that's kind of the emergence of why is that happening? Because the age of Aquarius has to show you how not to do it. Right. You
Well,
have to have that humility moment. And by the way, we talk about Dark Night of the Soul, right? We talk about the ego deaths that we go through, and you have to go through an ego death with this ability, in order to kind of elevate. We need it as a society, we need it individually, we need it as groups, we need it as missions, and you have to try it. That's why I asked the question about failures and successes.
Yeah.
Because I think you can't learn if you don't go like, oh, there you go, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Right. I will never be a guitar virtuoso, but I know my lane and I can play rhythm pretty okay. Right. It's that thing of like, but that doesn't mean I didn't try and do a solo.
Well, and I think everyone has a lane of failure. Like my biggest failures have always happened through major commitments and relationships. So I think like, whereas like entrepreneurship and those types of things, maybe that's not my lane of failure. You know what I mean? Whereas
it sounds like an astrology chart. That's what it sounds like.
And through like adversity is where we find the greatest clarity too. So I feel like, especially this day and age, especially any air sign can agree to, especially Geminis and Aquariuses and Libras, through adversity and that challenge that really causes mental anguish and angst is where you're going to find the most clarity, like that Ace of Swords, all those swords cards.
Completely. Yes. Being a Libra, I would agree 100%.
Do you find that people tend to, like, when they own mistakes from a spiritual standpoint, like one of my favorite things is when they realize that like their routines, their patterns aren't healthy or they're not good. And again, we go back to this, self-medication thing, this alcohol thing, this whatever. Do you find that people tend to recognize that they're not healthy sometimes? And that's when they say, oh my gosh, I have to do that. And this sounds weird, and I'm going to say it though. Do you see that it actually connects to their hairstyle? And I'm not being like weird about that. Do you find that they have like true like moments when they come to you that you're just like, holy Toledo, this is what you needed to hear me, talk about during this time. And this hairstyle will get you to a right place. It sounds weird to say it like that, but I hope you understand what I'm asking.
Yeah. Honestly, I've never really gone into that, like to analyze that at all. Like I've never it's never been like, I'm sure, like, for example, like you see me now, I've chopped all my hair off from 2.5 years.
It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it works.
There's revelations and stuff that people have that go through with hairstyles, of course. And like to help with their level of like, this is who I am. My favorite ones are when, to what your point is, it's more so when people are willing to make a certain choice. Again, going back to, we all have choices. Like you can choose to still do that extra vice all the time. You can choose to be X, Y, and Z all the time, but like you still have a choice to be like, hey, I want blue hair today. And is my relationship with my hairstylist, what is he gonna say? And what I said to Daryl in that instance was, okay, we can do blue hair, but I'm not gonna make it look like you did it. I'm gonna make it look like
oh my God. James, you were so funny because I wanted the whole.
She put the whole bottom blue.
I wanted the whole under to be blue, and he was like, "You were very tactful. You're like,
yes.
How about we just like place it strategically?"
I wanted to because like I know that it's still something that she is feeling, that color, right? Something that's part of her now. It's something that probably means a whole slew of things that honestly I don't even think we even got into. But we both knew what that was. Yeah. And so, but I did talk her out of.
It was her Chiron return, is what it was. It was her fucking Chiron return. Just letting you know, that's what it was.
She gets tons of compliments on it.
I do. Oh. I get so many compliments on it, and I forget it's there. And funny, I see you with it, but people are like, "Oh, I love your blue," and I'm like, "Oh, right, yes." Yeah.
Thank you so much. I didn't do it myself.
Exactly.
We had an interesting
to design this for me.
Right. We had an interesting question from Mary. Can a medium be able to see during a reading if a person had a past life or lives? And she's inquiring from Cork, Ireland. Interesting. Either one of you guys want to answer that?
Hi, Mary. How are you? Yeah, James, go ahead. Dive into that. So it's really kind of about like, able to see during a reading with past life stuff?
I think it depends on what, like, so if you're in that reading, so for example, physical mediumship has become a thing for me. So I think like the people that come, so the people that choose a medium, so there's a lot of us, right? So I think you're connecting, depends on to the medium itself. So some mediums will specialize in that. Like that will be a specialty of theirs or a gift of theirs. That's very, I mean, we all have these gifts. Some people just strengthen certain muscles, right? And that's what
totally agree with that. I love that. You're a really good teacher too, if you're using that language.
I am a teacher. Thank you. So,
I know you are. I have a book for you.
I know you are, but what am I, Brandon? Yeah. So I would say, yes, I can see a past life, but it's your soul that's telling my soul that. Like, it's like your soul has to also commit to that, again, accountability. So it's like, you'll be able to see and feel and like even get that message because you are just much part of that. Like we're just mediums, and yourself are just, we're conduits of this energy. And it's a beautiful, beautiful love vibration. I get chills just telling you this now because it's, you feel like, I feel like now I can feel like hugs around me. I feel the room like totally like separating into space. Like I don't feel like I'm in this room anymore. So as you told me that, now as I'm talking and my words are coming out, my fingers are getting tingly. Like I'm getting numb everywhere.
Again, so I get that a lot.
By experiencing that, then that medium will tell you if there's having a past life experience, or they're telling you. So like for you, I get like we're past life where maybe you did go numb like towards the end, or there was something that had to do with your past, more of your life and death. So I get more of your life death experience. Am I allowed to give a message right now? So I get more of a life and death experience here, and how that goes into what that was. So whether that was whether you got numb from cold water, I can almost like see it. So something that has like where you get all like you're getting all numbing from it. But anyways, I'll leave that with you. And thank you for asking.
I love. Oh, that's such
Brandon, would you go?
By the way, the second runner-up to the name of this podcast was "I'll leave that with you." So
I love that.
But I'll tell you, you can take it. You can take it. It's so, but I'll tell you. So, as a past life regressionist, like as somebody that's certified in it, I studied with Brian Weiss for a time and his son. And for me, though, when it comes into a reading, I get it almost like they show it to me like as a sepia picture, like a picture that kind of goes into that kind of sepia. And I'm like, okay, are we talking a different life? And I'll start talking about something and they'll be like, no. And I'll be like, you always feel drawn to the Western United States in the 1800s. Oh my gosh, I have dreams about that. Okay, that's why it's bringing me there. Or I'll see France, I'll see Paris. I mean, I'll get tons of lights and I'll be like, so tell me about your time in Paris. And you're like, not in this life, but I think I was there. Okay. So it's almost more like, for me, when it comes up, it's more of a validation. If I'm going to do a past life regression, it takes a few hours. Like you got to go under, you got to, like it's a full meditation. It's a full, exploration. And I actually do a very kind of different, I developed a different style of past life work where instead of going into an elevator, this is the Brian Weiss technique. You go into the elevator, you see all of the different levels that you have, and they say that's how many past lives you have. I don't like unvalidated information. Mm-hmm. Like I'm still a scientist at the end of the day. So there's truth to that because it's your truth, but I also want to have a little more science in it. So I bring people into an observatory with a whole bunch of telescopes, and those are your past lives, however many you want to see and whichever one you want to peer into. Like so it's a different feel. So for me, it's a different meaning. In a reading, that's what I'll get, but I'm not going to be able to tell you how you live or die. I mean, you may be able to, and that's really cool. I can't. I'm going to tell you this is from that time. I'm just giving you validation. For me, it's kind of like a validation component to hand it to somebody. So that's kind of interesting. Listen, I know we want to get to hairstyles real quick, but I just went through the painstaking, thing to pull up your chart and make sure that I have this correct. Look at you trying son of a bitch. Look at you go. Wow. And now I know that's as good as I can make it here on the screen. So I have to pull it up on mine and really take a look at this. And, first of all, your spiritual nature, you have kind of the trifecta, if you will, because you went post cusp on all of the water signs in your psychic houses. So on the edge of your 12th, your 4th, and your 8th, you have, and you don't necessarily have it in the 8th. This is really cool. So you're an overthinker when it comes to one of your biggest challenges in your spiritual development has been overthinking.
Yep.
Like 100%. So you have the natural innate ability of having that 12th house be predominantly, or at least, halfway through in Cancerian energy. Your sun sits right in the middle of, oh, you need to come to me in dreams? I'm right here, bitch. Let's go. Right? Your 8th house is pretty clear. But remember when you said that your relationships have a lot to do with your lessons?
Yes.
Well, sitting in your 8th house in that Scorpio and the Aquarian, you're actually in opposition there. You're actually running in an opposition to Taurus energy, which makes it very difficult. You're like, that the hot pot is hot and it's boiling, but you don't know how hot it is, so you grab it. That's been a lot of your lessons. With Vesta there, and again, I'm talking about, this 24 angle of Vesta here in the 8th house is like a very key thing. And I traditionally don't angle this, but if you look at the angle to the 24 degrees to the Taurus 25 degrees, that's what I was talking about with that opposition there. You healed through lessons. You healed through lessons, right? Oh gosh, Lilith and Sagittarius, you're up for a good time. Am I right, or am I right?
I am really good. Yes. I can have a party on my own, my friends.
Those are the best kind sometimes.
I do. I like to just be by myself, and I can do whatever I want.
All James all the time. Right? It's all James all the time. I think I froze there a little bit. I think we all froze, but we're back.
Yeah.
And then you've got a super stellium in your 4th house, which is
Libra.
Listen, I don't want to get into the mom stuff, but I'm going to tell you, mom is going to be a key factor. Dad is going to be an aloof factor, and you're very empowered by building your own family.
Yeah.
So, congratulations to you and Eric. It's like you guys are, he's got a winner, but you're a hard ass when it comes to this stuff. And it's not about fidelity as much as it's about mission. Does that make sense? Like, some people get married because they want fidelity. They just want to have their person.
Right.
You are trying to conquer shit. You're trying to make everybody a dual citizen. So you're just like, I am a citizen of the world.
I am. My joke is, Brandon, honestly, but I take it very seriously now. I say I'm a master of the universe.
There you go. Well, there it is. It's in your chart. It's in your chart. That 4th house, and also that nurturing component of, being able to see both sides and being able to connect that. The Virgo moon is incredibly, you've got a fidelity, but you're also able to communicate. This is what you need. That is actually one of those blessing placements there in that 3rd house, there in the moon, where not only do you talk about emotions, but you can just kick ass with emotions. Like you have to master that. And by the way, that moon being squared over here to Juno, which is the asteroid of marriage, makes you a catch, my friend. Makes you a catch. Do you need a note for home?
No, I do not.
No.
Well, I'm going to tell you too that you also have this trine to Chiron, and kind of a wider trine here to Venus, but your Chiron dropping down to the moon means that you have to emotionally connect with somebody, and you have to feel like you're doing the greater good all the time with Chiron in your 11th house. That is the way that you can heal. And it's about doing what you feel is the right thing, your truth. And it's not imposing your point of view. It is setting a standard. There's a difference. Like if I tell you, if you went out and you said, oh, all people have to become surrogates, you'd be like, that's a little extreme. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you saying, if this resonates with you, then you have to go do this because this is what resonated for us and this is what's right for us. You tend to combat the negative connotation with people with facts. Like
they would call that me being Tony.
What's that? What's that?
They would say that's me being Tony, like having a tone.
Oh, so do you have a tone?
I have a certain tone. I think so, yeah. And it's not like being mean. It's just like I have a certain tone that is matter of fact.
Yeah,
and some people get very defensive because of it. And it's like, no, it's the truth. Like, this is matter of fact truth. It's not anything that you're hiding. This is out front. Like, here it is.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and this is also a great social time for you because that conjunct that's going on in the current transit of Jupiter and Uranus, it happened in your 11th house here in Taurus, and it's probably right on that cusper line out of the 10th. So this is you opening up your business a little bit more, to be honest with you. It's extending. Are you doing work online?
Well, I can't tell you guys currently because I still need to relay some information to what's going on, but let's just say I have
something in the works.
I'm be making some major transitions and transformations. Yes.
Does it involve you being online and being on YouTube or being out there?
No, I mean, I have the Cosmic Weather podcast. Maybe it just involves me being on here more. I have some. Yeah, I'm definitely more in the public eye. I'm just telling Daryl, I'm definitely more of a leader in the community. And I'm definitely becoming more known for not just being a master hair designer, but being somebody who connects to all things and likes to teach it and share it and not use it in a way that's like, these are my gifts. This is what I can do. It's like, no, this is what you can do too. But I'm here to tell you, how about you try it out? And how about you start connecting to it? And how about you start using that in your daily life as a health practice instead of X, Y, and Z?
So going to blow your cover right now.
Uh-oh.
Have you ever thought about teaching classes to hairdressers on how to embrace the intuitive side of things?
Yes, I have.
And I don't want to. No, I'm kidding.
No, I do want to. I've started off thinking I should be teaching people how to cut hair because not a lot of people do know how to cut hair. And a lot of people know how to color. No offense to a lot of people out there. There's very few in art that are specialists in cutting hair, and that's okay. But I like that idea, Brandon.
It's and again, you notice how I pulled back on this and I didn't say this is what you're doing, but I'll tell you, like I said, some of the best in the student pool that I've had, and I've counted them up at one point. I've had 1,100, 1,200 students over time, and one of the things that I recognize, they almost always fill in one of the categories as a teacher, as a therapist, as a counselor, as a nurse, and a hairdresser. Like literally, that has been 90% of my student pool. Then occasionally you'll get the person that's just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But generally, they are people that are working the clay. And I think for that time, it's not forever, but for that time, it was super important. And I see what you're doing as a hairdresser in your connectivity. I think now it's time to become a specialist. I think it's important for nurses to focus in on teaching nurses how to have consciousness in the operating room.
Yeah.
I think it's time for counselors to say there is something that's not in the book that we have to allow for spiritual nature, right? And by the way, so I'm going to ask you, do you do art? Do you do painting, sculpturing? Are you a musician? Are you a comedian? Are you a writer? What's your other vibe?
I'd say artist first, then writer. Yep. I'm definitely pretty funny. I'm like all of that.
No, I'm kidding. That was terrible. I can't believe I just.
I love writing. I love writing more, and I love art so much. But yeah.
And again, I think it's that creative expression that, when you're coming, it's funny. I've seen it go both ways, and it's funny that Susan Cohen's on this. Thanks, Susan. It's good to see you. Who actually fills a couple of those categories. When you're a teacher and you're in front of people all the time and you're teaching them, the core curriculum and all the other crap that you're told to teach. And then you're able to kind of figure out, how do kids learn? Forget about what's in the book. How are you going to learn this, right? And we do, as an education system, judge the goldfish as to how they can't climb a tree, right? That's what's wrong with the education system in a nutshell. What makes a great teacher is that they come up with creative ways. And what they need is that you need that creative outlet to say, like, let me give you this example of do, re, mi. That is a scale step of logic. Does that help you? Oh my gosh, that helps me see it so differently. Again, vague example, but you guys understand where I'm going with this.
Right.
I think for you to be able to cut hair, and this is me kind of as a very parochial understanding of what it takes to run a hair salon and what it takes to cut somebody's hair. You have to have such vision to know, and the experience always helps, but to be able to be like, I'm going to cut it at this angle so that it falls this way. That's just, that's another planet to me. That's just another planet. I mean, to me, I would be like the Bob Ross of hairstylists, and I would be like, it's a happy accident. And that's the way it's supposed to look. It looks like you
a little snip here, a little snip there.
I think I'm asking you for a job without a license.
They're trying to de-license, actually, in certain states. Cosmetologists,
really?
which is incredible to me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Yeah.
I am going to Texas, so there's that.
Yeah.
But what about? Listen, let's talk about your synergy circle in particular. What do you guys do with this? Because I thought it was a really. I think it's a really kind of cool thing. Like, what do you guys do, and what is Talk to me about that. You know, what do you guys do at your synergies?
So we started, me and another psychic medium. His name is James Joseph, actually, as well. His first name is James, but his last name is Joseph. There's a whole thing. So we both wanted to get together. Like, he approached me and was like, listen, I want to collaborate on something, whether it's like a Reiki share or synergy circle or something to that degree. I'm hoping we can figure something out. So we sat together, and the word synergy came up between both of us. We were in the LHB Soul Center room, and it's a circle that helps others, like we're doing here with this podcast currently, is helping others connect to their divine power, their free will, and also feel that they're in a safe space. It's creating a safe space and place to talk about your experiences, from energy to, did you use milk in your cereal today? Like, just something that, like something that is
You're
very
a silk
much.
guy, aren't you? You're a silk guy, aren't you? You're an Are you?
It's very cool. It's like, and it's my intention as it's gone further is, you know, we always do a guided meditation. So I created this really cool guided meditation, which I channeled, which was amazing. And then we do to help people get into a place of support and love, right? So they feel loved and supported, and then they get to receive whatever they want to receive. So it helps people open the idea to receiving their own messages, receiving whatever guidance they need to receive. And then if they want to share it with their circle, they can. But overall, there's always like a theme to it. Like, our next circle is going to be a do-it-yourself DIY, making your own essential oil mixture. We're doing a kit for everybody. So we're bringing in metaphysical practices. Like, an herbalist we had someone from the Akashic Records speak, who does an amazing Akashic Records reading. We've collaborated with this. We collaborate a lot with the Soul Cave. That's where I teach a lot. At our Soul Cave in Glens Falls. I do a lot with Dana, the owner there, and her husband.
That's great.
So yeah, the Synergy Circle is just bringing that community of people who want to be in a room that is there to raise your vibration, where you can release any emotion you need to release. You know, some people will cry, some people will just sit there, some people have a lot to say. But it's really just to support those who know that there's more to this existence, and know that you have more of an ability to call in that assistance to help you on your journey. Like, for the good, bad, and ugly, like, they're happening for a reason. You have the support you need. Whether you feel the most alone you've ever felt in your life, there's something still supporting you. We are here to succeed. Like, that is what the universe wants for us. So that's what we're teaching. That's what we're fulfilling and filling in the subject matter. Like, talking about clairs, was a class. The difference between tarot and oracle was a class. Like you just said, the DIY. We talked about spiritual cleansing was a class. So we just come up with the different categories, and that happened. His first circle was actually the fall equinox last year.
Oh, how
That's
cool.
great.
Yeah,
Listen, anything that you need to support that, just give me a heads up.
Okay.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's cool.
You know, as somebody that ran a space that did that on the regular, I'm here to tell you I totally know what you need. And I graduated from being that center owner. Yeah. So I know the trials and tribulations. You try and keep it from being a counseling session.
Yeah.
You know, that's always, you know, I say, I'm sorry, Oprah doesn't work here. So we're going to, you know, all the backstory and that sort of thing. But I also think that it's very much, part of the reason why I kind of got out of that was it was a whole host of reasons. But I know that my role now is to support places like yours. That's why I'm going to Texas to support a small bookstore that doesn't want their books banned and wants to understand what the stigma is about mediumship. It's funny. All of my travels have been to the South.
Yeah.
And the Bible Belt. I sat there and I thought, even the thing that I'm like arranging in Michigan is oddly in the middle of the Bible Belt, just because it's Michigan and, Ted Nugent. But it's, for me, it's like I'm diving into those things. And I don't. What's that?
Michigan has a very, and I know people who live in Michigan, whatever, and I'm not saying anything bad about Michigan, but there's a vibe to Michigan. It's almost like
totally.
You're in like a separate aura to the country. It's so
they're waiting for Red Dawn 3.
Yeah, there's something happening there.
They're just hoping Canada toes the line. Like they're hoping, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is kind of like a battle cry to be like, what those Canadians did to us, and it's like that. Like they look for reasons to be angry. But Frankenmuth is a cool place. So.
It's true. I had a good friend in college who was from outside of Ann Arbor. But she had the summer place in the Upper Peninsula, the DUP as they call it. It's like a whole nother world.
Oh, yeah.
Was she in Saginaw? Was it like Saginaw? I think is a pretty popular.
No, not quite over that way.
Okay.
But beautiful, and it's near Lake Michigan. But holy cow, it was like, where are we?
The air feels different. Like they're not even in a higher elevation, are they? Like the air feels different. That's for us, anyways.
I mean, have you drank? I mean, I got bottled water from Flint, and I haven't been the same since. Thank you.
He lost a few brain cells.
I don't know if I should have it looked at, but it looks like a third temple. I don't know. On my elbow, nonetheless. So misplacement there with the Flint exchange, but it's to me, it's like I fully have that appreciation, and For me, I failed over and over again. I kept saying, hey, let's have this organization and let's do this and let's do this. And one of the things that whenever I coach, people that have their own place like this, I work with quite a few of them, is remember that you can't want it more than they do. You just can't. You have to let them have ownership of it. And I noticed that when I was doing this, it was at a time where people either wanted to, I would get 3 questions pretty consistently. One of them would be, all right, how much is this going to pay? And then I'd say, you mean the opportunity to do what you think your soul is doing? Like there was no appreciation for, I'm going to figure my way out.
Yeah.
And then the second thing would be, why would I do this here when I can just do this on my own? Meanwhile, I was providing the gathering place. Right. And then the third challenge was always, I'm not going to do it your way. Like when I would put a standard in and say, these are the rules. And one of them is like, we're not making this about one person and it's not a counseling session. We don't have those credentials. Like I would say it from a very practical standpoint, and they'd be like, don't tell me what to do. And I'm like, I just gave you sound advice. Like that's not,
We do it by donation as well. So it's just by donation only because there's there's so many limited seats currently. But the other James has the Phoenix Rising Synergy Center that he just opened. So we've been doing it there. But it's something that I would like to also use my space, and I have used my space to do as well. But it's one of those things that I'm curating to have another offering of like a larger space too. So
yeah, and listen, I think that's like a really kind of cool. You're doing it right. I mean, everything that you're saying is you're doing it right. It is one of those things that you have to recognize that when you're doing this, though, encourage people out the door. Yeah. Always hire your replacement. Always give them, something down the road. And it's not yours to keep. Exactly. It is just not yours to keep because for me, what I've really kind of recognized in all of this is like, I was like, hey, oh, wow, there's somebody else that's doing past life regression, or there's somebody else doing tarot and that sort of thing. Yeah. And not that competition ruined me. It didn't ruin me. It inspired me in so many ways. I just realized I wasn't in competition anymore. My job was not competition. It was encouragement. And then once I got that down, holy shit, then I took off. Yeah. That's when I took off. It was when I was like, oh, that's just a different way to look at it then. right? And I think it's a pretty amazing thing when you hit your stride. Have you hit your stride? And by the way, I could do a whole other show with you and ask you one question. Are you ready? You know what the one question I would ask of you, and you would just be like, "Holy Toledo, Brandon." Are you ready?
Sure.
How many people have you helped?
Wow. Okay. I can say, I don't know, like enough, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, I love that. I love that super short answer, actually, because it's kind of like, well, but it's true though, because I stopped.
So far.
People always ask me, how many readings do I do? And, you know, when I have numbers and, you know, when you do your taxes, you kind of have a good idea and like how many people come to your shows and all that other good stuff. And I quit looking at it like how many readings did I do? How much money did I make? I literally said, how many people did I help?
Yeah.
And it changed everything. And I think if I could go back and talk to 41-year-old Brandon when I first made the commitment to do this full time as a living, that's what I would have talked about. Like, it's not the money, you know, coming out of corporate America and a you know, making six figures and working for a Fortune 100 company. It really sexy. I had a sexy resume, man. It was a sexy resume. And by the way, my degree was in organizational management.
What?
I knew there was going to be that reaction.
Daryl, are you kidding? Come on.
That's why I wouldn't tell you what it was.
First of all, oh my God, I can't even go down this road. We would need another whole episode just to talk about how that's not even like possible.
I didn't say I was good at it.
Touche.
Yeah, right. I mean, you know, don't. I mean, I typify when people say the words like, "Oh, I don't even use my degree. I don't use my fucking degree." Okay, can we get that out of the way at all? No, but I have a knack for organization insofar that I know where the pieces are supposed to go. I'm somebody that likes to know where the rules are so that I know where to break them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
All
right. So listen, we're going to wrap up strong here. I do want to do a quick ad for myself, though. I want to add this guy in here, and then Daryl Honey Badger is going to take it over. If you haven't heard, if you didn't catch it on my Shuffle Up and Heal the other night, I made an announcement on May 1st, and only May 1st, I am going to offer everyone a pay what you will reading. I realize that, you know, over the years, I've built this up, and I have a certain amount of success, and I have a lot of projects and a lot of things, and I sell out everywhere I go. And the general model of most mediums is like, hey, come see me do a gallery, and they do 5 or 6 readings. Everybody leaves disappointed, so you have to book your own appointment with them. And I think that's really kind of a sham. And to kind of back up where I want to go with all of this and my gratitude and everything is for one day and one day only. You can book me on whatever price fits your budget. There it is. I would have loved for you to be able to type it in, but unfortunately my system doesn't allow that. So I have a lot of things across the spectrum that you're able to kind of choose from $25 to $111 to $225, whatever it is that works for you for a $300 reading. You have to register on the website, and then you will get the email. You will only be able to register through the email that you receive. So that's my catch-22, that you have to be able to do that. There are 25 spots open. Feel free to go ahead and jump into that. I have a feeling I'm going to be booked for the entire summer from this. And I'm totally okay with that. I am, it is my gratitude. It is my May 1st, May Day celebration, if you will, and celebrating doing this work for, you know, the better part of my entire life. So thank you guys for hearing me out on this. And Daryl, listen, I know we finished strong. We always like to bring up like, you know, like top list or a quiz or some sort of hokey horse shit like that. Bring it. I just have fun. You do realize, like, anybody that hangs out with me. Yes. Lenny just asked the question. You will be receiving the email at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is when the email will go out. So jump on there. Thanks, Lenny. Yeah. So we, you know, the bane of my existence is to bust Daryl's imaginary balls all the time, and it's kind of fun with these. And when she told me this list, I just started laughing. I'm like, I'm so screwed. Like she likes to stack the deck against Brandon. Daryl, what are we going to talk about today?
All right. So, well, I was trying to think of something relevant to do a top 10 on. And so our list is the top 10 worst hairstyles of all time.
You can't.
And I honestly have to say there were a couple that I didn't know the name of. Like I'd seen those hairstyles, but I didn't know what the name of it was. So anyway, James, you might nail all 10 of these right out at the get-go.
You're giving me too much credit.
So this is from our friends from Ranker. So what we usually do
is Ranker. Ranker changes every day. That's the write-in one. Oh, all right.
So,
all right. So who gets to go first? I'm not trying to vie for position. I know like 2 hairstyles and I need to get them out and hopefully say them before James.
Well, maybe our watchers can help you with some names, but so usually you guys alternate. One person guesses and the other person guesses.
And the guest always goes first, so I'm going to give you that. You know, try and come up with something like I wouldn't even think of.
Oh man,
try to stack the deck.
I'm going to say mullet.
Fucking, that's the one. Damn it. I'm so screwed.
But I love the mullet. That's why, I like the mullet. To be honest,
you had a mullet.
I know. I had a bad.
James, you went to Canada for a baby. There's a lot of shit that you like.
Yes, the mullet is on there. I can't show you them as they go.
Show us here at the end. What about the bob? Is the bob a thing anymore?
The bob is not on there. No.
The page boy.
No.
The pay toy?
Page boy.
Oh, page boy. Isn't that kind of like the bobs? Wouldn't that be like the page of swords? Oh my God. James. Oh my God. We're going to do a web series. We're going to say the hairstyles of the tarot.
Yeah, we should. The Hierophant.
Oh my gosh. Susan. Yes. Perm. I came up with that myself. Thanks, Susan.
No.
We have none.
Susan,
now?
You're fired.
I don't know that is that a hairstyle? Getting your hair permed? Like haircut. Let's do it that way.
Daryl, you're going to split the baby on that one.
I am.
So we have guessed none.
No, you got the mullet.
The mullet, the only one that both of us knew together, by the way, hairstyle. I mean,
oh my God, what's another one? I've literally.
Somebody put the wolf cut.
Yeah, the wolf cut. I was gonna say that.
No, it's not on there.
What is the wolf?
I mean, we can't say the Rachel because everyone loves the.
Oh, we've got another hairstylist in the house, everyone.
Okay, good.
The Rachel is on there.
The Rachel's on there. Thank God. I can't stand that haircut.
Yes, the Rachel is on there.
Which one?
The Rachel.
The Rachel.
Oh, the Rachel. Really? You don't like the Rachel?
No, it's overdone.
That's what I have. I have Rachel. Oh, the Pixie.
The Pixie
nope.
can't be on there. No.
The bi-level?
Is the shag on there?
Shag?
No, it is not.
The bi-level, the A-line, the buzz cut?
Now you're just going off the list.
I'm totally going off what everybody else says. The wedge. Oh my God, Paul, what does that do?
This is hard.
What is that?
I know.
The undercut?
No.
The curly Rachel.
The curly Rachel.
Curly Rachel. I'm so glad that Rachel's on here. I'm sorry to those people who are obsessed with Friends or that haircut.
I'm so glad I never asked for that haircut.
You're so lucky. I would have been like, get out.
Leave my salon.
If I come in and I get the Joey Tribbiani and I just sit in your salon and go like, how you doing?
Like baby bangs on there? Because those are crazy.
No.
Okay.
Oh, the mohawk. That's a good
mohawk.
one.
Oh.
No, that was not on there.
Okay, this is ridiculous.
Think 70s. Like along the line of the mullet. Like think 70s.
Right. Like a Beatles haircut?
The
Beatles?
No, but there's one.
Well, isn't that the shag?
No.
Fucking, we suck at this.
I know.
Greasers 1950. Feathering?
Oh, no. Good guess, though.
Oh, there's there's the Farrah Fawcett, right? Is Farrah Fawcett's hair? Is that a hairstyle?
No.
No, that was a braless look though.
Yeah,
Say that.
James doesn't
Sure, too much. Not everybody understands it on this call. I get it. I understand. It's
James
all good.
doesn't care about that.
I don't know. Fruit cut, bi-level, buzz cut.
What did every kid in the 70s have as a haircut?
Was it like the mop top or whatever?
Close.
There's the Caesar cut. There's the
Caesar cut. Et tu, Brute?
There's like the bowl cut. The bowl
cut. Yes.
The bowl cut.
God, we guessed like 2, 3.
We got 2 between the two of us, and you stole them.
You've gotten
bowl cut. There you go. Paula got that one. What about the comb over?
The comb overs.
Oh,
Patty Sharps came up with that one. We're gonna give Patty some credit on the comb over. What about the beehive?
Oh,
the beehive is number 11.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Susan pulled out that one. Paula said it right as we were talking about it. Oh, I love this one, Kelly. What about the Trump? It's a wonderful haircut. It's the best haircut possibly ever.
Yeah, I don't know.
90-degree haircut you learn for skateboards. Oh my gosh.
Oh, so Christine, yes, there is a haircut. I didn't know the name of it. You want me to give it away?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I think we've cut James. I think we've kind of tanked this.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm a trendsetter. I am not like, let's be honest.
Right. I'm going to move it over to the results. Oh, hold on.
Oh, I did that. You can go ahead and go back to it. I'm sorry.
How did you do that? There we go. Okay, here we
Sorry
go.
about that.
Here are the answers.
Oh, the flock of seagulls, duh.
Yeah.
Oh, the Jufro, that's offensive.
What's the Jufro? Is the Jufro like generally like?
My God!
Yeah, you went there. You knew we were going to ask it.
Picture.
You knew we were going to ask it.
Daryl, I'm not giving you the portrait cut. Okay, I do not. That's
please don't.
That is skill right there.
Oh wow. Man, and
the
hairband look is what?
The hairband look.
Oh,
I had hair out to here and hair down to here, and I was living.
Oh my God, the rat tail! Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, I can't believe neither of you guys got the rat tail.
Oh my God, the emo shag. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yes, Christine was close with the skateboard.
Sorry, that was quite a list.
No one has ever had such an incredible cut. Oh my God, that is so awesome. Great line.
And honestly,
great line. The bowl cut, the mullet. The hairband. I'm a little. The Skrillex really. That's like a mohawk.
Where's the hairband?
The Skrillex is very much like a mohawk. In fairness,
I didn't know what a Skrillex was. Like I had to.
Skrillex is kind of like a shaggy, like down the middle, but
that's
getting up over the ears. Yeah,
like kind of spiky and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and giving Christine, I don't want to cover up James here, but Christine, you are very welcome, very talented in your own right as well. And the emo shag, like that like?
I had the emo shag. I probably had.
It was like a 2000s thing, wasn't it?
I probably had that.
Are we talking? I mean, who's the singer there? The carrot top there, Strawberry. I'm looking right at him. When you God, I can hear all of his songs. I just can't remember his freaking name.
I don't know who it is.
Not Ed Kane. Oh my God, I'll think about it later. Yeah, but the hairband cut? Are you kidding me? Heaven isn't too far away, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
like get right on that. And Flock of Seagulls, I kind of get, but that was pretty unique though. And the portrait. What's an example of the portrait?
Oh,
I
had it on the here.
Oh, getting a portrait of somebody. Oh, that's just
like
freaky.
buzz cut in your hair. Yeah.
That's like freaky. I would never. Who would you get as a portrait, James? Like, who would you get?
That's a really good question. I would
like,
say.
Would you put your kid's face on your head, knowing that it's gonna grow out?
I'd probably do like
Madonna.
That's a really good question.
Madonna. By the way, that comment was equally as offensive as the Jufro. Just to let you know. Me assuming that you would get Madonna. Just to let you know. I like
Madonna, but now
straight white guy with blue eyes just checked himself. Okay, I'm just letting you know. I have a high sense of awareness on that one.
You would get Brandon shaved into my head.
Yeah, would you?
Oh, Christine, I love you.
Christine, girl, all the life advice I've given you, that I'm gonna rail against that one. I would just be like, whatever. It reminds me of a time when I had I told a couple, I'm like, oh my gosh, congratulations. And they're like, what? And I go, yeah, this time next year you have a child. Well, sure enough, through the things that they did, through the things that they did, they had sex. They ended up having a child. I was like, oh, that's fantastic. She goes, hey, just want to let you know you were correct. I just gave birth. And then she said the name, and the middle name was Brandon. And I went, oh no, you didn't. Oh my God, no, you did not do that. I go, it's a little weird. I go, that's a great name. That's a great name. What's going on? And she goes, oh, my uncle Brandon was the reason why I named it. And I go, oh, of course it wasn't me. I was kind of like, oh, that's such a nice thing. And she goes, there was some influence. You might have pushed it out. You were the tiebreaker for Uncle Brandon type of thing. But I was just like, you did not just do that. Oh my God, you just did that. No, keep me out of that. Anyhow, oh my gosh. So that's kind of.
Did Colin Kaepernick have his hair like this for a while?
You couldn't even say Jufro, could you?
Well, no, Colin Kaepernick. The.
I know who he is.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. I'm pointing out that you couldn't say the words Jufro.
Oh my God.
She will not allow herself to say it.
Jufro. It sounds wrong. I'm sorry.
It feels wrong. It probably is. I do like the suggestion of the Trump, though. Do you think that he has, like, in your honest opinion, do you think that he has what level of that would you have? What level of like maintenance do you think Trump has to go through?
I don't know. Maybe
is it like a daily thing? Like, does he have to have it? It looks brittle to me.
I don't think he ever washes it. Like, I think he just permanent's has hairspray in it.
And it may not be real, guys. It could also be like a toupee.
That's true.
Well, he's swearing that it's his hair.
Well,
so did he grow it out of his ass and then put it on his head? Like, I don't. I mean, it sounds like it's policies.
I'm not here to talk politics, but like, do you believe him? I don't know. Like, I don't know what to believe.
Not wrong. He's not wrong on that. He's as wrong as calling it a JF, though. I mean, we'll retire that one along with the show. But this has been an exciting show here. I really appreciate it. I knew we were going to have a good time with here, James, and it's this is just a fun thing, and I hope you find some inspiration with it. I hope you take it back to what you do and how you do it. Stay in touch with all of this stuff, and anything that anything that you need, I'm happy to provide it on my end of it. And just keep turning Daryl's hair blue. If that's kind of cool.
Changing it up.
Maybe her whole head will be blue next time you see her.
I know.
I could have seen James like coming on, and like if Daryl's hair was sideways.
I made sure my hair was not up in a bun or a ponytail because I knew you'd
be. Tell her we might as well
Daryl.
Yeah,
it would have been like, how are you gonna? Hi, Daryl, how are you going to do this? It's like, I'm going to blank my screen. I'm going to be off. I'm going to be off a little bit.
I put some effort in today.
Up since 6:30. She's 20 minutes past her nap. We've got all of that going on. Yeah, I'm closer to that than you think. All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks, James. Thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations on all your success. Keep being a light in the dark for everybody. And listen, we're going to give each other the hard taps to love and care for one another, to remind each other to simply keep going. James, thanks so much for being part of it. Daryl, great job. And I will see you guys next time.
All right,
everybody.
All right, guys. Thanks again. And we're out.